All right, I'm super excited today because we get an opportunity to interview Mr. Tiaan Krige of AP3. Today we've been filming Financing the American Dream. He's been so gracious to let us interrupt his workflow here at AP3. We got some great footage. If you can look around here, you'll see some beautiful cars, and they are responsible for all these cars. That's why they look so great. So Tiaan, tell us about AP3. What is it all about?
Sure. So, at AP3, we specialize in the installation of paint protection film, otherwise known as PPF. A lot of people don't know about PPF. It's a brand new technology. I was first exposed to it when I was working at a Lamborghini dealership in 2014. I was buffing cars all day, making sure they didn't have a single scratch in them. And then when I learned you could install this film on new cars that would make it so they never got a scratch or a rock chip ever again, I immediately identified that as the future of automotive car care.
Right.
And so luckily, since then, the industry has grown a lot. And so getting started in paint protection film then, I've sort of positioned myself now as an expert in the field and been able to teach the craft to a lot of talented young guys that, are part of the AP3 team.
Right. Yeah, you've got a lot of great guys walking around around the shop here. And, speaking about the shop, we talked about it earlier on the show. This is not your traditional automotive location that you think of, that we spoke about. The oil stains, the dingy lobby. This is like a laboratory. Talk about why it's so important to have such a clean, pristine location.
Yeah. So if you've ever applied a screen protector to a new phone you bought and tried to do it without leaving a single bubble or piece of dust, then it's actually a lot harder than it seems.
Right.
And that's a tiny little square. Now imagine doing that on the front bumper of a car.
Right.
So it really needs to be extremely clean in here, very well lit, so that the installers are able to, really do a perfect installation. Because PPF is a funny product. When done well, you shouldn't be able to tell anything's on the car at all.
Right. Right. So are there any other, as far as, you mentioned that this is the future of automotive and keeping cars clean. Anything on the horizon that may challenge or change the industry? Any disruptors at all?
Well, the history of really automotive paint goes back to the switch from single stage paint to clear coat style paints in like the 80s and 90s. Now that the modern paint on cars is a clear coat style of paint, I don't see that changing for a very long time. And then, of course, if you do have a clear coat, you know how finicky that is to maintain. Anytime you wipe something or clean something, you're leaving scratches.
Right.
And so having an additional layer on top of that that's made of a polyurethane that's scratch resistant, self-healing in some cases, essentially means that your clear coat paint job will always stay looking new.
Excellent. Now, you're a young man, you're 30 years old, okay? You're running a successful shop. Clearly you're an entrepreneur. How did you evolve into becoming such a successful entrepreneur? Because when I look around, this shop is run so tight. Like, everything is clean, the guys are doing a great job, everybody's working, but there's also this sort of community or teamwork type atmosphere as well.
Absolutely.
So, you're doing a hell of a job running this shop. So how did you gain all that knowledge at such a young age?
Sure. I'm just really trying to follow several blueprints. So I guess the first blueprint was laid out by my dad. He's a serial entrepreneur, so ever since I was a kid, I would sort of gain insights into whatever ventures he was going on. And as you know, entrepreneurship is extremely risky. A lot of those ventures did not work out. So I got to learn from his successes as well as his failures on, what works, what doesn't. But a lot of times you can try something and it's a great idea and it doesn't work. Not to any fault of your own, but maybe it was just the wrong time or the wrong product. Right. So when it comes to AP3, we've benefited really from being in the right place, which is Atlanta. Atlanta is a huge car community, car culture, commuter culture. Everyone in Atlanta has a car. A lot of people closely tie their identity to their car. Yeah. If you're a successful business guy, you want to be seen in a Porsche. And then if you're soccer mom, you want to be seen in the latest trim level Honda Odyssey. People's cars say a lot about them, and people take pride in their cars.
Yeah.
And so we're in a great market at a great time when this new technology's come along. And then, of course, I really feel like so much of what's contributed to our success has just been putting the right people in place and just having a championship level team, similar to a championship level sports team.
Yeah, love it. Now, You know, we had the side conversation earlier, and we were talking a little bit about the sort of the romanticizing of entrepreneurship, right? And where, you know, everybody in, not everybody, but you know, we hear a lot about go to start your own business, do this, do that, and do this on your own. But like you said just a minute ago, there's risks involved with that. Not everybody should be an entrepreneur or be a self-employed individual.
Sure.
You know, how did you figure that out, and what sort of advice do you have for the folks that are watching and the younger ones coming up, or older ones that have been working for a W-2 job for an individual for some time?
Yeah, you know, the expression, the grass is always greener on the other side. So, you know, I call it the Shark Tank effect. People love the show Shark Tank. Yeah. They love the idea that you can have an idea, a dream, and then, you know, run with it to the point where you become financially independent, maybe even wealthy, because you worked hard, you believed in that idea, and you kept pushing it. And that's maybe more of that romanticized vision of entrepreneurship that's popular nowadays. But the nitty-gritty of it is that, you know, I've been fortunate enough that I found my path pretty young and early in life. And so I don't have a family yet. I'm not married. So I was able to do the 90, 100-hour work weeks. I was able to take the extreme financial risk that I could lose everything, which was easy to do because I didn't start with a lot.
Yeah, but you didn't have a family either. I mean, you don't have kids in school. You don't have soccer you need to take them, cheer you need to take them to.
Sure.
You know, when you don't have so many people that are dependent upon that source of income, you can take a little bit more risk. It's a much higher risk if you know that your family can't go to their sporting events or can't do whatever their day-to-day stuff is. So, you know, working hard and putting in the time and effort it's a commitment, and it's not, you know, you didn't probably become successful overnight.
Sure, you know, a lot of late nights, a lot of setbacks, and you know, when people talk about risk, that term gets floated around a lot when you're talking about money. You know, you're risking money, but another resource that's even more scarce than money is time. And so just the sheer amount of sacrifice of, you know, not being able to be there for, you know, the major life events, you know, friends, family, maybe neglecting relationships. These are all the things, the kind of ugly parts of entrepreneurship that people don't talk about, because if you are going to get a genuinely good idea or product off the ground, it's going to take you sort of disappearing for a few years as far as the people in your life are concerned.
No, I love that. I think you're 100% correct. I mean, everybody's sold on the sexiness of being financially free, but they don't really talk about all the time and money and heartache and sweat and tears and blood that you sweat through or you expel just to try to get your stuff off the ground. So thank you for touching on that. All right, so I'm in the mortgage business. I've been in real estate. I've been in real estate for 22 years, and we're here. We were doing the show Financing the American Dream, which is real estate based, and we're here because you all purchased this property. Kind of talk us through, you know, buying a commercial property and what sort of the process is to buy a commercial property and what the vision took, because you know, talk about the history of this particular location, this building, because it wasn't what it is now. Sure. It took vision from you to make it happen.
Yeah, so, you know, in order to have a paint protection film shop, thankfully, the infrastructure requirements are not huge. You need to have a garage door where you can pull cars in and out of, and you need to have kind of an open warehouse space where you can park the cars, move them around. But other than that, you know, and maybe adding climate control, there aren't huge requirements for a building for us to be able to come in and renovate it a little bit and start operating. But that being said, even though those requirements aren't that high, when we did start thinking of expanding and we did start looking, there was almost nothing we could find that even fit those, you know, bare bones requirements. And so ultimately, having Maddie there to, you know, alert us when these things did pop up was huge, because, you know, commercial real estate, a lot of people think office space, multi-story buildings.
Absolutely.
People don't really think of the industrial and warehouse side of it. But that side of it is extremely active, has been extremely active the last few years. So if there is something that comes up, you need to jump on it. You need to be ready. You can't be, you know, hemming and hawing, is this something we want to do? That decision needs to happen before you start searching, because when you do find something, you need to put an offer in, and you need to hopefully, you know, get under contract.
Are you saying you need to get pre-approved prior to buying something? Did I just hear that? I don't. I feel like we talk about that a lot on the single family side, but I
Yeah.
feel like maybe you just touched on that. Now, let's talk about the financing side of that. Of course, I'm not asking you to open up your books and ask
Sure.
us all the details of it, but commercial financing versus residential financing are two totally separate animals.
Yeah.
Can you give somebody give a little bit of advice or maybe some bullet points that would help educate the next person about trying to obtain commercial financing?
Yes, so the basics really apply. You need to make sure that your books are in order, that you can readily show the lender, all the relevant financial information reports that they want. So having a good bookkeeper or accountant in place. Again, it sounds basic. A lot of businesses, especially in my industry, do things quite informally, right, and don't necessarily have their house in order to be able to make moves like that. And yeah, just basically the financing part is networking, knowing people, knowing bankers, and being kind of led in the right direction of how you should right. be doing things.
Now, traditionally, commercial financing is not just a 30-year fixed mortgage, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
So what I'm getting at is typically commercial financing, there's some sort of balloon payment, and it's typically some sort of fixed payment for a period of time is what we traditionally see on the commercial side of things. So, if you want to learn more about that, you can certainly talk to me about that, and I can put you in the right direction, because you just said, Tiaan just mentioned networking. I don't do a whole lot of commercial financing, but I definitely know a lot of people that do, and usually direct people to. So just like Matty Weiss, who you mentioned a little bit earlier, finding you the location, he specializes in commercial properties, commercial real estate. I focus on residential, so when I get commercial financing, I usually put that off to somebody that actually specializes in that, and I don't mess with it a whole heck of a lot. Now, you mentioned a couple things. When you're setting up a company, you mentioned a few pieces of the team that you needed to have in place, and we talk about it on a regular basis, like having a team set in place, like attorneys, CPAs, those type of things. Touch on that, and you mentioned the CPA important to show the book so you can get financing. What about attorneys, real estate agents, those type of things?
Yeah, so in the automotive industry, it really does seem like everyone knows everyone, and so I've gotten to know so many big-time dealerships, private dealerships, other shops that don't offer our services, offer different services. And so I've seen the examples of kind of the good, bad, and ugly. The people who I look at and say, oh, I'd really love to run a business like them. And so you bump into them at car shows, at networking events, you get to know them. Some of them you become friends with, especially guys that you tell them, hey, I really appreciate what you're doing and how you do it. I'd love to learn more about it. And so it's really just been through finding those mentors, if you will, within the industry, and asking them, hey, what attorney do you use for these matters, and just coming at things from a learner's mentality, not thinking I need to know it all. In fact, thinking, wow, I know nothing, so I need to get out there and find the people who do know.
Yeah. Be a sponge, absorb as much as possible. What about like networking? You mentioned networking. I mean, do you do any sort of networking groups to try to expand your network, or is it just through the car shows and the dealerships?
Yeah, it really does all happen quite organically.
Yeah.
It's, like I said, the automotive industry, especially aftermarket automotive accessories such as paint protection film, everybody knows everybody, and once you've been operating in the industry for a few years, you get to meet a lot of the big players and get to know people that could be a great resource to you.
Awesome. All right, Tiaan, thank you very much, man. You've been a pleasure. It's been a great afternoon, getting an opportunity to get to know you. Where can people find you here, online, on social media, etc.?
Sure. So if you're looking to protect a new car in the Atlanta area, visit us at AP3ATL.com. And then, of course, if you want to follow us on Instagram, see some cool pictures, videos of some cool rides, you can follow us at AP3_Paint Protection. And then we also have a YouTube channel, AP3 Paint Protection.
Love it. Awesome. My name's Darren Hunter. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next episode. Have a great day.